Electric guitar is the worst it's ever been, dude. I've been playing guitar, writing music, teaching, and just engaging with guitar music for well over 20 years now, and I've seen a lot change over that time, and not always for the better. Part of me is convinced that we're living through the worst point in the history of the electric guitar, and to prove it, here are my top 5 reasons why. And just so we're on the same page, this video is heavily opinionated. It's not all blanket truths, and your opinions are just as valid as mine, so if there's anything in this video that you agree with, disagree with, or just some other shit that you don't like about the state of guitar right now, pop it in the comments. Where are all the new players? Let's start with the biggest problem that could be an existential threat to the guitar industry as we know it. Young people are just not picking up the guitar anymore. And look, as much as I feel like I should put my old head slippers on and bark off the front porch about the youth of today,
Hey, listen! Now my story begins in 1962.
I don't think it's their fault at all. We are currently at the very bottom of a cultural dip in the guitar's popularity, and it feels like it's been fucking flatlining for years now. None of us guitar players really want to admit it, but the fact of the matter is what's sitting at the top of the charts right now dictates what the majority of people are listening to, what's popular, but then also what's being manufactured to fit that niche. And that's also the big boys at all the major labels can make loads of fucking money, baby. Electric guitar has its roots so deeply intertwined with like rebellion and counterculture that the idea of manufactured guitar music makes me do a little bit of a sick in my mouth, and that's probably why it's completely absent from the charts and nobody's listening to it now. And when I say nobody, I mean a wider audience. Me and you have obviously still got taste. But what about Machine Gun Kelly? He's had some top-selling pop-punk albums and even has a signature guitar with Schecter. Shut up. I'm sure not a single one of you that watches my channel actually believes this, but if anyone thinks that Machine Gun Kelly was anything other than a culture vulture, they've got fucking brainworms. Also, what the fuck is this dude? Schecter, everybody makes mistakes, but come on, you can do better than that. In the last decade, based on my very rough and probably inaccurate estimates because I'm not very good at maths, there would have been about 250-ish total number ones in the US and UK combined, and like only 2% of them were guitar-led. That could potentially be disputed depending on what you consider to be a guitar-led album. Regardless of those numbers, young people are just not hearing guitar music as much as they're hearing Taylor Swift, and we all fucking know it. But the fact guitar music isn't doing numbers anymore is not the biggest problem that young people are facing today. The youth are giving up on hobbies entirely, and they're just not trying new things that they might really love to do for fear of failure. The society that they're growing up in is a world away from the one that I grew up in, and probably the one that you did too. Kids are getting to their teenage years having already consumed enough short form content to rot the brain of a Victorian child in less than a minute, and the trend focused
"you should like this thing because it's popular right now"
landscape has instilled in them this idea that they need to be immediately good at something to be able to get any sort of validation. Because ultimately, if you didn't post it online, does it even matter? Yes, of course it does. But those kids feel like they can't take the chance at trying something new and sucking at it because people will see that they suck. And the thing with any new hobby, especially guitar, is that you have to suck for a bit. That's just what it is. Now, there's obviously outliers, and the number of new young players is still pretty high, but the majority of young people will never do much more than consume trends and TikToks, and I think that's fucking sad. We've let them down. Big brands don't innovate and saturate the market. Let me ask you a question. Off the top of your head, can you remember the last time one of the bigger brands released a guitar that really pushed any boundaries? Every year you get guitar players that are stoked for the brand new releases from the big brands, and it's always like the new Fender Player Stratocaster 16. It still doesn't have stainless steel frets, but it is purple now. Oh, and it's 1,500 quid and it's made in a Chinese Temu factory. The big companies' heads have fucking gone, mate. They're just wobbling around releasing the same timeless instruments every year and not actually doing anything to move the guitar forward because they know that their current market, their current audiences are just going to lap it up. Don't get me wrong, my favourite brands do this too. I'm sat right now with a guitar that was originally released in 1987 and then reissued years later. I am certainly not immune to the intoxicating fumes of nostalgia, but let's talk about Ibanez for a second. They also push the boundaries of their catalogue with unusual styles, potentially divisive models, and then just really wild stuff. They've got tons of ridiculous shapes, something that will suit every player, and when they do release something new, it's cutting edge. The truth is, if the big brands did anything to innovate on their designs and they took off, it would make their existing offering less desirable. So what they do is they tell everybody that only a Gibson is good enough, and a decent subsection of the player base decides that they need a 7th Les Paul when it's the same fucking thing that they've already got 6 of. Some of these legacy brands are just floating on their reputations, which personally I don't think are that well deserved in some cases. They're selling bragging rights to dentists and doing fuck all to innovate and push the electric guitar forward. That boils my piss actually. Short form content is killing guitar. We all know deep down that short form content is bad. Even if we like to have a little scroll while we're sat on the toilet, we know that it's not good for us. It's bad for our attention spans, it's really bad for our mental health, and it's even bad for our bumholes. See the previous sat on the toilet thing. But it's also bad for development and creativity. The problem stems from the thing itself. Now I could go on another old person rant about short form guitar content, but I'll probably save that for another video and keep this one short. Aha. There's only a limited amount of information that you can possibly portray in 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes. So people very quickly devise what shit is doing numbers and they just churn it out, making soulless reel after reel, day after day until the next trend comes along. That means that any educational guitar content that is on any of these short platforms can't possibly explain the concepts on a deep enough level for it to make any sense. And any guitar playing that's on these have to be a fucking spectacle, otherwise get swiped, fuckhead. I'm not watching that, it's boring. What's the value in any of it? Now I know I have personally saved an absolute fuck ton of educational guitar reels on Instagram, and not once have I ever gone back to that save folder to learn a piece of it. Even if the creator had the absolute best intentions, that is just not the way the platform functions. Reels are designed to make you feel good when you see it and think, I can learn that, then you save it so that you can go back to it later, but you never will, and you comment so that you can feel like you're participating in it, and then you just move on to the next reel, and the next reel, so on and so forth for like 6 hours a day. It's all designed so that you can stay on the platform and just get served more ads like a good little monkey, pressing the banana button over and over again for Papa Zuckerberg. There is a part of me that's talking to myself here because that is exactly what I feel like when I sit scrolling through this content. But this is like one of the biggest ways that people consume content now. People spend entire evenings just scrolling instead of fucking doing things like playing their guitars. How many great albums have been lost to the universe because fantastic guitar players never started writing because they were too busy gooning to goth mummies on Instagram?
This is how to talk to a goth girl. A dommy mommy. Let's begin. Can you step on me?
Too many. It's too many, dude. Stale, algo-friendly music. But what if you're using short-form content to find new music? That's where it lives, right? Artists are being told now from every angle, via their labels, managers, educators, that they need to be posting short-form content to get people to listen to their music. But the unintended side effect of that is that these people are now creating music for short form content. Now I will preface and say it's not just guitar stuff that is being affected by this enshittification of music. It's a whole thing that affects the whole industry, but we're guitar players, so we're going to stay in our lane for this video. When bands are told to post on short form, they're either told or are already subconsciously aware that they need to post what is successful on the platform to do well. This just snowballs into a thing where bands keep releasing new music for the platform that's the exact same as the last thing that blew up on the platform they're posting on. Within the last however long, I have been served so many shorts from so many fucking bands that just want to be the next Sleep Token. It's unbearable. I quite like Sleep Token, but I don't want the fucking new releases from Nat Voucher, Unconscious Gift Card, and Supermarket Trolley Keyring Coma. That extends to Gent and Thal and whatever you'd call Polyphia too. There's some absolutely killer music in all these respective subgenres, but it's becoming this thing of like, who can tune lowest, or who can tap dance on a Digitech whammy the best, or who can just play something that sounds exactly like Go. I'm honestly just kind of done with the whole thing, and it's making like 90% of guitar music fucking boring for me. It's not like copycatting in music hasn't been a thing since forever, but the technological landscape now means it's so easy to hop on a trend immediately, and then it'll just die out shortly after, making more room for more algo-friendly shit trying to be the next viral sound for some alternative bird to shake a batty to. There is a bright side though, because everybody needs to be posting on these platforms. If you scroll long enough from the deluge of absolute dog shit copycat music, you will still find the genuinely creative and unique players that are still putting out music that's worth listening to. It's just not as often as those players deserve. The death of the guitar hero. And the last one, which might be the bleakest of them all, where are all the guitar heroes, dude? This might be my boomerist take, but I'm willing to die on this hill because none of us would fucking be here without them. Every past decade has had their player that stood out as the cultural champion of guitar playing. Hendrix, Van Halen, Slash, Dimebag, I would even reluctantly say Tom Morello, just to name an handful, though I wouldn't personally count slapping an input lead on your hand as making music, but you can't say he's not unique. Each of these players has shaped the way that we all play guitar. We've all been taught something by them, and they all gave us someone to look up to in our early days. The insane guitar players of today, most of them would absolutely shred their way around the old guard, but no matter how hard they try, they cannot break into the mainstream of music, and that's what I'm getting at. The guitar hero is dead, and that's because the world doesn't want to crown a new one. Guitar isn't wanted like it once was, and that means that the whole thing starts to suffer. With no one to look up to in the mainstream, the visibility to kids who might have picked up a guitar and grown up to be insane players just isn't there, so they never try it. It's not cool. Guitar just isn't cool to most people anymore. It's still cool to me and you because we fucking love it, but to everyone else, it's kind of just what it is. Really, guitar music is a subsection of a niche anyway, and most of it's made to appeal to other guitar players. Without any new audiences coming in, it's likely going to stay that way forever, and the industry knows it. So you're probably sat there now depressed at the prospect of what I've said, or you're mad at me because you're in denial, but there is a twist. Whilst I wholeheartedly believe everything that I've said in this video, I do not believe that that is the whole picture. There's another video, it's live right now because I put it up at the exact same time as this one, talking about why I think guitar is in the best position it's ever been. I 100% borrowed this concept from a Warhammer channel because I thought it'd be fun to do, so if you do happen to see this, thanks guy. Now, you all know I love this instrument, I am super passionate about it, and even though I can acknowledge all the things that I've already said, I am generally much more positive about the entire thing. The good news is, no matter how true any of the things are that I've already said, everything always goes in cycles. So go and check out the other video if you need a much more positive pick-me-up to remind you that nothing can ever truly kill the electric guitar. Thank you so much for watching, dude. Take care, stay playing, and I'll see you in the other video.